Hi, I'm Kit Bell, and today I'm going to be talking about how to transfer your image from a photo reference onto your canvas. So you've found your next creative idea. If you're using a reference image that has any amount of structure to it, the next step is to transfer that information onto your canvas. That might be just a few simple lines or some large shapes, or it might be a fairly detailed drawing of architecture or wildlife. Before we look at your options, let's talk briefly about image and canvas sizes. The format of your painting is the term used for the size and shape of your canvas. It is basically the four lines around the outside. Aspect ratio is another term for the same thing. Both of them are basically the relationship between the height of the canvas and its width. For example, let's look at the very commonly used 3:4 ratio. If you take the two numbers in the ratio and multiply them by another number, that would be your canvas size. If we use 4 as the multiplier, then 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 times 4 is 16. So the canvas would be 12 by 16. If we use 6 as the multiplier, then 3 times 6 is 18, 4 times 6 is 24. So the canvas would be 18 by 24. When you are looking at photo references and picking your next subject, you need to crop your photo bearing in mind one of the standard ratios so that you can use a standard canvas and not go to the expense of custom ordering canvas. To keep with the previous example, if you crop your image to 6 by 8, which is just 3:4 multiplied by 2, then you could use any 3:4 ratio canvas. Let's look at some of the standard ratios and canvas sizes. Please note that this is not an exhaustive list. Always check with your local art supply store to see what canvases they have available. So first of all, we have a square format, which is just 1:1. The height and the width are equal. Panoramic is a very nice size to use. 1:2 would give us such sizes as 12 by 24. 2:3 gives us a wide rectangle, such as 24 by 36. 3:4 rectangles are ones such as 18 by 24. And 4:5 rectangles are ones such as 16 by 20. Let's take a look at the standard canvas sizes for each of these ratios. There are lots more. This is not an exhaustive list. So our square format, that's anywhere where the height is equal to the width. Lots of sizes available at your local stores for this, including ones like 8 by 8, 10 by 10, and going up to much, much larger than 24 by 24. The panoramic, two common sizes available in 1 by 2, are 12 by 24 inches and 18 by 36. But you can also get ones that are larger. The popular 3:4 ratio gives a nice rectangle, and there's lots available in that, including little ones like 6 by 8, medium-sized ones, 9 by 12, 12 by 16, and then going right up to 3 feet by 4 feet. The 2:3, which is a wide rectangle, is not as available in different sizes. The ones available locally to me are 4 by 6 and 24 by 36. And the narrower rectangle, sort of a more squarish rectangle, 4:5 ratio, that is also available in lots of popular sizes. 8 by 10, 12, 16 by 20, 24 by 30, and then there's also some other ones which are pretty close fit to 4 by 5. 11 by 14, 14 by 18, 22 by 28, all work well with the 4 by 5s. So now we have a photo reference that is the same ratio as our canvas. In this example, the photo reference is 8 by 10, and the canvas size is 16 by 20. The ratio is 4:5. So how do we get the key information from the image to the canvas? There are two popular methods. The first is the gridding method, and the second one is using transfer paper. The advantage to gridding is that it is low tech. If you don't like computers much, this might be the best method for you. First, make sure that the photo and the canvas are the same ratio. Then divide your photo along the edges into 4 equal parts on each side. Then draw lines to form the grid. 4 here is just used as an example. You could also break it up into many, many more sections. Now you do the same thing to the canvas. Once your grid is on, you can find where each of the important lines is located on your reference and then draw that onto your canvas. If the canvas is very large and there's a lot of information to be transferred, you could divide each side of the reference into more sections. Using transfer paper to essentially trace your image onto canvas requires that you can print your image out at the actual size of the canvas. If you use Photoshop Elements, that program can do that for you. Some print shops will do that for you if you bring the file in on a memory stick. And remember, you only need to print the important parts. If that's just a small portion of your canvas, that means you might be able to print it on a much smaller printer. I use the Mona Lisa graphite paper to transfer my image onto my canvas. So now I'm going to demonstrate these techniques for you. So the gridding method of transferring an image is pretty straightforward. In this image, I've got a few lines that I want to transfer to the canvas and make sure that they're in the right place. For the composition, this angle right here and the location of the two trees and their little shadows and their bright spots is quite important, and I'm going to want to grab the location of those two little cows as well. Plus, some of these lines of the light would be interesting to get to make sure that they're in the right spots. Now, this isn't a very complicated issue or image, so what I've done is I've just divided it into quarters. That's going to give me, a grid of 16. Instead of trying to copy the whole image, it allows me to go into one little quadrant and say, okay, this line comes up through here. So much simpler to transfer the image than if I didn't have any kind of grids at all. Now, once I've got my image gridded up, I want to do the same thing to the canvas. So again, I'm going to put it into 4 equal bits. I'm going to take the canvas and I'm going to divide it up into half, and then each half gets divided up into half again. And you just have to do the math for that. It's kind of a nuisance, but and I'm not going to tell you what the math is on this one because it's more about making sure it's right for your canvas than it is for whatever size of canvas I happen to be using. So that's that side. Now the other side is going to need a much bigger ruler. This is my, whoops. This one is really rather unwieldy, but it is useful on the bigger canvases. And I only need it for just a moment. And I might as well connect these ones while I'm here. So once you've got your marks set out, then you just go ahead and connect them. Looks like that one's off. I'll have to recheck it. Oh yeah. Now what I'm using here for the marks itself is a water-soluble pencil, so that if I make a mistake like that, I can just take a piece of paper towel, dampen it, and it acts just like an eraser to get rid of that extra mark. The other advantage of having using a water-soluble tool, watercolor pencil, pastel pencils are also water-soluble. People don't realize that, but they are. This happens to be a Stabilo All pencil. Comes in a variety of colors. It's water-soluble, and it marks on a whole variety of surfaces: paper, glass, plastic, i.e. acrylic, and metal. So these pencils are very handy for doing these sorts of things. Okay, once I've got my grid on my canvas, now I look for the particular lines that I'm interested in. So for example, where this one crosses here. So that would be in this quadrant right here. It's a little less than halfway across. This is where this tree line comes through. And then this line here is about halfway across. So it's going to be coming down like that. And then it basically goes up pretty straight from there, and there's a little branch that comes out. Down here, this end of this shadow, across the road, and then a little bump, and across there. And these ones here, these little bright spots that come through, that's a nice band of light. It's about halfway up. So I'm just going to kind of roughly note where they are. And then there's that nice rock. That's going to draw the eye. And some light in back here as well. Now the other side of this tree, there's a junction that you can see, and it's about 1/4 of the way across here. And this is where this one is going to go up there. And this side, oops, not quite that much, goes up there. And then the other tree comes down very close to that and then widens out towards the base. And there's other little details in there, but that's going to be enough to give me the key information there. And there's a big branch that's coming out there. It's quite important. There's a branch that comes behind. There. That's probably more information than I really need for this. particular image. Oh, there's another little tree over here. Let's get that guy in. He's about halfway. Kind of disappears up into there. And he's kind of narrow. Okay, and now the little cows, they're going to be just kind of very rough shapes here. They're really not much cowness except maybe that ear and the nose. The fact that it has legs and a tail. So not much detail in them at all. And the little calf, he comes from about there, up, little round, little head, couple of ears. So there we go. So that's about all I would do to transfer the information onto this canvas. Okay, so I'm just taking some really thin medium and a little bit of Payne's gray, which is kind of a neutral color. It's kind of useful to draw these things out with. And all I want to do is lock the key lines in because I'm going to wash this canvas to get rid of the rest of the orange. And I don't want to lose these lines that I've taken the effort of putting on. So putting a little bit of acrylic over these lines will lock them in place so that I'll have this information that I spent the time transferring. There we go. I think that's about all that I want on there. Once that acrylic that I just painted on there dries, then I'm going to just wash the whole canvas and get all the rest of those orange marks off. The danger of leaving the orange marks there is that they may come through in a later layer, which I found out to my chagrin on a recent painting. As I was putting the isolation coat on the sky, some brown from some branches leaked through, so had to repaint the sky. Anyway, that's gridding. Okay, so now we'll talk about transferring. Transferring seems easier, but of course it relies on that one key thing that you have to have the portion that you're interested in, the part with the stuff that you need to transfer, has to be the same size as the canvas that you're transferring to. This requires some knowledge about how to print out an image at a specific size. Like I say previously, Photoshop Elements can do that for you, but there's not a lot of other programs that will. So this is the key part. This is the part with, this important angle in here and the rock and a few little things. Of course, the cows I'm going to do in this particular painting. So this is the part that I want to do. I don't care about all the stuff on the other part. That's very, very easy for me to just paint. So I've got my photograph at the correct size. This is what I'm going to be using to transfer it. It's Mona Lisa's graphite paper. I get the 2-pack, the larger one, 18 by 24, so that I can do larger chunks of canvas with it. So what I need to do now is tape down my photograph onto the canvas so that it doesn't shift while I'm doing this. I'm going to tape it at the top so that I can lift it up and peek underneath, see how it's going. For this, I'm going to want a fairly sharp, just regular pencil that's going to leave a nice impression. So something quite hard, like an HB or harder, works just fine. And now here's the real tricky part. When you put your graphite paper between the canvas and the image, make sure that the graphite side goes down. It's really a drag after you've spent quite a bit of time transferring something, lifting it up, and finding out that you have the graphite paper upside down. You can also just draw a line and then just quickly lift and check that in fact it is going through properly. That's why I tape it on the top part. So I don't need a whole lot here, just basically where is the tree trunk, a couple of branches. The other side of the tree trunk would be good. Grab this one here. This goes across. Here's that band of light that I want to keep. Oh yeah, and then there's this other tree back in there that's kind of good. Sort of adds another element. And then the little shapes for the cows. Because the cows are quite far away, these little shapes are going to be pretty indistinct. That might be a tail, who knows? There. And that literally is it. It's that fast. When all you need is that information, it's that fast to transfer it. So definitely a nice, easy method if you can obtain a photograph at the right size for your image. Here we go. Now, as with the other one, I would mix up some paint and I would just go over these lines so that as I'm doing my underpainting, etc., I don't lose the lines. So here's the two canvases. One that had the transfer using the grid method. I've washed off the grid now. And then the other one that was transferred using graphite paper from a same size image. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope one of these methods will be useful to you in the future. And I'll look forward to talking to you soon.